Hey, what's going on, Puto Sports family? We are here once again giving you another edition of After 90 Minutes. For the first time, actually after the 90 minutes, it hasn't been easy doing it, but we're doing it in style. And we're doing it with a guy that needs no introduction, one of the most recognized voices and journalists in MLS, Mr. Paul Tenorio, man. Thank you for being here, man. It's raining, so the lighting's not amazing, but we're here for your takes on all things Sounders, starting with today's game, 1-1 draw, not what Brian wanted. This team once again cannot secure that victory. What are your takes on it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Schmetzer said after the game. I felt like the first 15 minutes of the game, the Sounders are what you think of the Sounders as being in their history. On the front foot, attacking, dynamic, pushing the game forward. They get a goal, they get rewarded for it, and it felt like they took their foot off the gas a little bit. And some of the issues we've seen from the Sounders this year of maybe not being as attacking minded, getting in good spots and then pulling the ball back and being a little bit more conservative. And, you know, in games like this against a rival, a 1-0 lead is obviously never going to be safe enough. You know, you want to try to close an opponent out. And, you know, I think it's very clear right now that the Sounders are still trying to figure things out on the attacking end. You hope seeing Pedro de La Vega come in today and bring a spark to the team that maybe he's a piece that helps to solve that by being a creative player, a front-footed player. But I think certainly there's going to have to be some discussion about the attacking end of the field and being more aggressive if you're the Sounders, frankly.
And look, the problem it's not just one component. It's not just the coaching, the tactics, and not just the pledges, a combination. But let's start with the tactics. I was a little surprised that when I asked Brian if there was anything else he could do to push the lines, make things different, to just go secure the game, he just thought everything was fine. How much is it that maybe is either Brian's conservative approach or what we're hearing from other coaches that maybe the players are not being receptive of what he wants to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know exactly without knowing what the team talks are like and things like that. But I think for me, it's that you're missing that thing that player that kind of sparks things. And I think for a long time, Niko Moreno was that player.
Yes.
And it was a very difficult transition for the Sounders to move on from a player that had been so important. You go get a guy in De La Vega who's supposed to be the replacement. He's injured. You're missing that piece. So who steps up? And I think what we've seen is maybe, when you don't have the right pieces to fill that attacking space, you're asking guys to step out of their strength to try to fill that strength. And that's when I think a team starts to become unbalanced a little bit. And as a result, I think, for example, today, when you watch the way they play, there are these moments where some of that more conservative-minded playing or defending, which is how the Sounders have always defended, kind of in deeper moments, looking to get out in transition. Well, when you're doing that over and over and there's not that outlet in the transition the way there has been in the past, it's a lot more difficult. So, Raul Ruiz-Diaz is not the Ruiz-Diaz of his peak years, right? And Jordan Morris has been asked to play a couple different roles, but even he, when you're defending constantly, to then be asked to also be the outlet player running up the field, that gets harder and harder. And so, I think that the conversation has to be around how do we get back to being that transition team that can beat you very quickly when you make a mistake or when you turn the ball over, because that's how I think of Sounders soccer. And I think there probably is a need to go get maybe even one more attacking piece that can open things up.
And that's spot on. And I've said this on here in every show that I've ever been on this season, is the fact that there are no game changers. There's no that guy that's going to be that Nicolas Rodero. And when we saw the breakdown of salaries, Jeremiah and I both went on, asked about two players, and one specifically that comes to mind because of what you just said. Albert Rusnak was supposed to be the guy that was going to take the torch and be the Nicolas Rodero. He grabbed the torch, there's the gasoline, but there's no spark. He's not lit it. And I'm not sure if he is the guy to replace Nicolas Rodero.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. But, Rusnak has also, I think in some ways is maybe his best soccer is when he's the guy making the pass before the pass. In the same way that I think Christian Roldan can be that guy as well, who is the heart of the midfield, but you need also the player in front who's kind of his first task is to make those final passes, to kind of be the dangerous attacking player. Right now, I think the answer is going to be Pedro de La Vega. You saw even today, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, he comes in, header off the crossbar, shot off the post from a tight angle. You know, he's the guy after the Vancouver goal. He's grabbing the ball, he's running, he's trying to create a spark for the team. That's what the team is missing right now.
Right.
And you know, maybe there is something where you have to say, okay, well, it can't just be one young player who's given that responsibility. You have Rui Diaz still, you have Jordan Morris, and you do have Rusnak. But I think there has to be a recognition right now that the focus has to be on, okay, we need to be more aggressive-minded. We need to be willing to step on a team's throat. We need to be willing to be playing on the front foot all the time. And you know, I think the Sounders recognize that. I think the players understand that, you know, they're not happy with the way we were just in the locker room. I think you hear that from the players saying we need to kind of figure that part of it out. But I you know, for me, maybe it's just because of the success of the Sounders for so long. The expectation for me is they'll get it figured out because the Sounders always do. But I do think that there are still some answers that could be found in maybe some additions of new players or of just integrating the big signing of the offseason into this team.
Right, and that goes to the first transition. And I want to get your take on what you feel the ceiling is, because obviously you're of the Athletic, you provide a national-wide opinion on the Sounders. I am not sure if this team is going to go and get a big signing in the summer. They might get a player to come replace Javier Arriaga's spot and salary, but that doesn't mean you're going to get a big DP or young DP or a U22 because there's just not that availability. But there is a U22. I just don't think it's going to be a big signing. So with that in mind, and what you just said, is Pedro enough for this team to do what? I mean, expectations for the Sounders are always trophies from fans, from everybody. Is the ceiling just playoffs, or where can this team go?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, look, I think it would be naive not to say that this team is in a moment of transition.
Yes.
And that's the reality, and it's difficult in this league when you go through those transitions, especially when you've been as successful as this team has been. We saw the difficulty of saying goodbye to Nico Lodero. I think the reality is that there's going to be more of that changeover to come, kind of in the natural progression of this roster. But to your point, even if you did want to go spend a bunch of money in the summer window, you know, the way the league works nowadays, the summer window opens July 18th. You've got Leagues Cup. So most teams are only going to have 9 or 10 games left in the regular season if you make a signing. And that's if you can sign a guy right away and he's playing the first day after the window opens, you know, let alone the visa paperwork and all that. So I don't think any team should be counting on the summer window to be their savior. So what does that mean for the ceiling of this team? Look, it's MLS. You get to the playoffs, it's the ultimate equalizer, right? Like anything can happen. But I think the reality is that, you know, I thought this Sounders roster preseason was good enough to compete for championships, so I'm not going to go back on that now. I still think it's got the talent to do it. But right now, I think they need to figure out kind of who they want to be as a team in the attacking end if they're gonna talk seriously about winning trophies. But again, I had them. I think in my preseason I might have had them finishing first in the West. Oh wow! So I think it'd be a little silly of me to back out of that now. But the reality is, like I think we've seen watching this team that they've got some stuff they've got to figure out soon.
No, I'm with you. And first of all, thanks for being here. That has been my thought throughout the whole season. And it's not just in MLS, it's in sports. Anytime that you have a golden generation, which is what this team's had over the last decade, everything they've been able to do, there's a transition moment, there's a rebuild time. And it is now. You've got 2025 Club World Cup, right? That's when I think the big signings are going to come in. Raul Ruiz, whether he's here or not, he's not going to be in a DP contract. I don't think Albert will be here, and even if he is, he won't be in a DP contract. So there's going to be some big signings for this team. It's just not going to happen now. But before we go, I do just want to give you a time to just provide us with where people can find you. If they don't know you, I don't know why they wouldn't know you, but you know, I know you're working on a couple of projects. So please, you have the.
Oh yeah,
mic.
you can always find me at The Athletic. That's where I do most of my work. I have a book coming out in 2026 that's going to be about this moment in time for American soccer, you know, kind of built around the idea of Messi's arrival, but the World Cup coming, the Club World Cup, the Copa America this summer, the Apple deal, all of these things, the relevant lawsuit, all of these things happening around American soccer, what it means for the future of the league, for the future of the sport, how this league is growing and what is going to impact what this league looks like in the future. You know, that's where a lot of my work is going right now. So hopefully, hopefully people go out and buy the book when it's out.
Hey man, I'll be the first one to buy it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a voice that just echoes MLS and U.S. soccer. Really happy to have you here, man. So thank you. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you continue to follow Asa Pulso Sports Soccer Bar. This was After 90 Minutes. Have a good day, guys.